नमस्कार एस्पिरेंट्स, आप सभी का मेंस 2024 क्रैश कोर्स में स्वागत है। सेशन शुरू करने से पहले आइए समझते हैं कि ये प्रोग्राम क्या है और आप इसका अधिक लाभ कैसे उठा सकते हैं। द स्टडी बाय मणिकांत सिंह आपके लिए लाए हैं मेंस 2024 RWR प्रोग्राम यानी रीड राइट रिवाइज। ये प्रोग्राम आपकी मेंस प्रिपरेशन में एक पैराडाइम शिफ्ट लाने वाला है। इस प्रोग्राम के थ्रू हम आपको 200 प्लस सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स प्रोवाइड करेंगे जो मेंस 2024 के लिए क्रूशियल हैं। इन टॉपिक्स पर बेस्ड क्वालिटी क्वेश्चन पेपर्स बनाए गए हैं जो आपको सप्ताह में 2 बार यानी मंगलवार और शनिवार को टेलीग्राम चैनल पर शाम 8 बजे अपलोड किए जाएंगे। आपको इन क्वेश्चंस को अटेम्प्ट करना है और अपनी प्रिपरेशन को टेस्ट करना है। अगले दिन उनका रिगरस डिस्कशन और मॉडल कंटेंट यानी बुधवार और रविवार को शाम 8 बजे यूट्यूब चैनल पर लाइव होगा। मेंस क्रैश कोर्स के डिस्कशन के थ्रू GS 1, 2, 3 और 4 सभी 200 प्लस मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स का एब्सोल्यूट कवरेज होगा। आप अपने दोस्तों के साथ इस प्रोग्राम का उपयुक्त लाभ उठाएं। कमेंट बॉक्स में दिए गए टेलीग्राम चैनल पर क्लिक करें, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और अपनी मेंस 2024 की प्रिपरेशन को आसान बनाएं। धन्यवाद।
Hi students, today we will be discussing this topic of geography and disaster management. You must have already attempted your paper and we'll be discussing all possible model answers which could have been there in that particular, in all those questions. Without wasting any time, let's start with the first question. The first question was, identify the administrative and the logistical challenges in implementing a new time zone in India. How can these challenges be effectively managed to ensure the smooth transition? Now, before we start attempting any particular answer, the most important thing you guys need to know is that you need to underline the keyword first. So, what are those keywords in this particular question? The keywords are first the administrative and the second is logistical. So, administrative and logistical, these are the two important keywords over here. Administrative and logistical, these are the important keywords. Challenges in implementing a new time zone in India, how these challenges can effectively be managed. So challenges can be effectively managed, so that is the another important keyword over here. Now we need to start writing an answer. Always remember, before writing an answer, mark the keyword. Once you know the keyword, your introduction should be around that keyword, and then after that in your body part also you need to put those points which are relevant for that particular keyword only. Okay? So how would we starting with this? So in your introduction, the question says, identify the administrative and the logistical challenges in implementing the new standard time zone. So you would be writing that India is a vast country which has a large latitudinal as well as longitudinal extent. Throughout the history, we have followed, as in since independence, we have followed a single time zone which is called as Indian Standard Time. However, the new demand for the time zones are emerging time and again. These can be the administrative, for them the administrative and logistical challenges can be as follows. So that can be your introduction. So understand this. Here I've explained that what is the current situation of the standard time zone and what are the new demands for the new standard time zone which is coming up. Because see, as of now, what is the situation that we have one time zone which is being followed for India, that is called as IST, right? And there is a demand going on for the new time zone. All of a sudden, if you start writing answer in which you would be writing that okay, these are the challenges which we'll be having for new time zone, then it doesn't look good, because straight away it feels as if we have started talking about new time zone without giving any background information about this particular issue. So that background which has to be given in the introduction. Alright, then after that let's move forward. Now you will be moving toward administrative challenges first of all, because that has been asked. Acha, this is also very important, that if they are asking you about, let's say, administrative challenges and the logistical challenges, don't write logistical challenges first and then the administrative one. Generally we have this tendency that in whichever one we are comfortable, we will be starting writing with that first. Whatever is the sequence of the keyword in your question, the sequence of the keyword should be followed in your answer as well. Whatever keywords are being written, those keywords also has to be there in your answer as well as it is. So don't try to find out some synonym for administrative one and you are writing that in your answer, or the synonym for logistical challenges and you are writing that, because examiner will try to find the words which are there in the question in your answer. that whether you have inserted those keywords or not. So those as it is, those keywords should be there. So administrative challenges. What can be the administrative challenges? The policy and the legal adjustments are there. So what are policy and legal adjustment? So we have to change our laws according to new time zone. For example, let's suppose the demonetization, let's say, which has happened in India, in which our Prime Minister came on TV and he has announced that at this particular on this particular date and at this particular time, the current currency will not be valid anymore and the new currency will be applied. But what if we have two time zones? Isn't it? So we also have to take that into account. In that case, we have to change our laws. We have to change our laws accordingly. So because in many times, let's suppose in our law, the civil in the Citizenship Right Act, it is being written that the people who have migrated to our country in this particular date, before this particular time and all, so if they have this document or this these things, so they will be categorized as a Indian citizen. But then if we have two time zone, then we have to change it, right? So the Citizenship Act would also change. Similarly, there are so many different judgments and the acts, the legal issues will also be there. So policy and the legal adjustments has to be there. We now onwards, and even historically also, we have to change our laws in such a way that they will conform to two time zones, not the one time zone. Then after that, interagency coordinations would also be there. Interagency coordinations as in what? Establishing robust communication between various government agencies. Transportation, commerce, then the public safety is there also there. So transportation may we can think, okay, the transportation system which is there in one state and the transportation system in the other state. When the new time zone will be defined, we have to conform to those time zones as well, to those adjustments as well. So interagency coordination in that case would become very crucial. Then after that, achieving public consensus. Before implementing any system, any new system, the stakeholder consensus is very important. It's not just the public consensus. You can also write along with the public consensus other stakeholders such as the geographers, maybe, the geographers, then state heads, the heads of the various states, the chief ministers, the central government. Because ours is a democratic country, it's important that we should take permission, or we should at least take them into confidence before implementing such thing. Because see, the new time zone was demanded, the Chai Bagan time zone in the northeastern India. In that new time zone, Assam would have some different demand for longitude. They may ask for the 87-degree longitude, then Arunachal Pradesh may ask for different longitude altogether. So all of them need to be taken into confidence first before implementing it, isn't it? So technological system overhaul would also be there. So technologies which follow, generally technologies follow the time and the date zones of every particular nation. So in that case, right now we follow Kolkata's IST, and also if you see on the net, it looks it always catches the time which is there for the Kolkata and all. So now onwards we have to adjust in such a way that India will have two time zones. Even international coordination over here would also become important, isn't it? Our country also have to confirm we have to mention it that we have two time zones now onwards, so that inter-country coordination would become smooth. So logistical challenges are also there. In logistical challenges, we can write this transport and communication network. Transport communication network, a person who has, let's say, they have some Zoom meeting which is going to happen. The person is, one person is there in Agartala and the other person is there in Ahmedabad, and they are supposed to come on online and to have meeting at this particular time. Then if they have two different time, they are in two different time zones, then that also has to be adjusted properly, isn't it? So transportation and communication time zones, communication network need to be corrected. Economic and business impact would also be there. Again, if you take a flight all the way from Delhi and you are going somewhere in Sikkim or in some other South Indian state maybe. So over there, if you are crossing and you are going to the new time zone, so that even airline also has to take that into account. Educational campaigns and public awareness, cross-border coordination. Understand this. Educational, cross-border coordination over here becomes important is because in European Union there are various countries and they have different time zones. All of them coordinate with each other very efficiently so that they'll be able to have a smooth transition of transport, smooth transition of people to people movement as well, and even smooth transition of information. If we go for the new time zone, we also have to have this coordination with our neighboring countries, right? Although we do not have that smooth relations with our neighboring countries that we have to, but then at the end of the day, this is a very basic thing which we have to follow with all the countries, even if they are our foes or friends, doesn't matter. But then we have to conform, we have to make sure that we are in consonance with those countries, we are in coordination with them. Then educational campaigns and public awareness. The most important thing is, even if you change the time zone, it will be a chaos in our country where the people are mostly uneducated and illiterate. In that case, we have to find some ways in which we'll be telling our people, we'll be explaining our people in the simplest manner, so that we'll be able to we will be able to convey them properly that what exactly this change in time zone is all about, isn't it? So that would also become very important over here. So these are the logistical challenges. Whenever you write any answer, so always remember, in any answer around, if it is a 10 marker, so how many marks are being allocated for 10 marker question? So let's say it's a 10 marker question. UPSC goes for IBC format, introduction, body and conclusion. You can see over there, introduction, body, conclusion, where 10% marks are there for introduction, conclusion has 10% marks, and 80% marks are there for body part. So if introduction has 10%, that means 1 mark is there for introduction, 1 mark is there for conclusion, and 80% marks, that means 8 marks are there for the body part. Every point which you write carries around half mark. If it carries half mark, that means for 10 marker question you are supposed to write at least 12 to 15 points, because some of the points also have 1 mark and all. So in that case, 12 to 15 points has to be there in your answer, in the body part itself. And never forget to mention the introduction and conclusion. The reason being, it also carries 1 mark, 10% marks. Some of the students have habit of jumping straight away to the point. So they start with the body part altogether, skipping the introduction and the conclusion. Now this is wrong, because you are directly leaving, you are directly skipping your 20% marks by not writing introduction and conclusion altogether. So make sure that you write them properly, correct? In case, while writing in an exam, in case by the end of the paper you don't have enough time to finish, you don't have enough time for attempting all the questions, then in that case try to go for body part always. Never start writing introduction and conclusion once again, because doesn't matter how beautiful introduction you write or how beautiful conclusion you write, you will be getting only 10% marks over there. While in the body part, if you manage to write only, let's say, 5 to 6 points, isn't it? 5 to 6 points. 5 to 6 points, that means what? 5 to 6 lines or 7 lines maybe. For 5 points, it will take you 7 lines. 7 lines, that means what? Introduction ka 3 line and the 3 to 4 lines for conclusion. The same lines which you are supposed to spend for introduction and the conclusion, you have spent for the body part as well. But in that body part, whatever points which you are supposed you would be writing, for that you will be getting more marks, isn't it? You will be getting more marks for that. Half mark, if you can calculate, it will fetch you more marks. That's how it works. If you don't have time in an examination hall, go for body part. However, if you have enough time, then never skip introduction, body, conclusion format ever. Next question is, discuss the distribution of the fresh water resources globally. So distribution of fresh water resources globally. This is an important aspect over here. And what are the key challenges faced by the countries in water scarce region? So water scarce region, the key challenges. So this is important over here. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll start writing the distribution of fresh water resources globally. In introduction, you would always write that the sources, we'll talk about the sources of fresh water. The sources of fresh water in the world can be in the form of rainfall, the snowfall, the glaciers, the rivers. Our earth has different type of climate at different parts of the world, equator being the hottest and the pole being the coldest. Thus, different water conditions, different availability of the fresh water conditions are there in the various parts of the world. This can be explained as follows, and then after that you can you may draw a diagram over there. So what I'll do is I'll draw the world map, right? So I'll draw the world map, and in that world map I'll be showing that where all those fresh water resources are. So fresh water resources. Where are all fresh water resources? Let's draw them. First of all, Amazon basin, Congo basin, Southeast Asian region. Here the fresh water resource is because of the continuous rainfall, isn't it? Along with that, this Arctic and Antarctic, these are also the region of fresh water. So that's how basically you can always show the various regions of fresh water in the world, isn't it? Then after that, the next which they are asking is, what are the key challenges faced by the countries in water scarce region? So what are the challenges which these countries are facing? The challenges are population growth and urbanization. Whenever population increases, the demand for water also increases. See, at the end of the day, water can be utilized. Fresh water is getting utilized in some of the areas for agriculture, for industry, and for people, for population, isn't it? Agriculture, industry, and population. If the population increases, then population will consume more water. If the population increases, it also leads to urbanization. Urbanization leads to more concretization. तो होता क्या है ना कि when the urban area increases because of the increase in population, such urban areas will require higher maintenance. People in urban areas will tend to have car. People in urban area will tend to have big houses, isn't it? They would move on the roads and all. So everything need to be cleaned and everything need to be maintained properly. So because of that, they'll be utilizing more water. So higher the urbanization and the more the people are, more water would be utilized, isn't it? If more water would be utilized in that case, then the demand for water would increase more and the resource constraint would come. But at the same time, urbanization also brings along with it the concrete jungle. Concrete jungle as in everything would be made up of cement, concrete. So in that case, water will not be able to percolate within the surface. So if you create concrete roads everywhere, concrete wala buildings everywhere, so pani jo hai, the water will not be able to percolate within the surface. So when it won't be able to percolate within the surface, the groundwater table would reduce because of this. That means even the source of fresh water would also reduce on the surface as well, because the lakes and the rivers won't be able to move in the urban areas properly. What happens because of this is, in urban region, whereas people are responsible for utilizing more water, they are not giving it back by storing more water, isn't it? So that's the problem. which would increase in the water scarce region. So in the water scarce region, because of the increase in population and urbanization, the water gets utilized more, but the water doesn't get conserved more. That's a problem, isn't it? So climate change is another aspect for the water scarce region. How climate change? So climate change has led to instability in the availability of the water. So when exactly rain would come, when exactly rain won't come. There are certain areas where the rainfall is more than usual. Right? There are certain areas where the rainfall is much lesser than what it used to come. Because of that, the water scarcity may increase. Yes, water scarcity may increase in both the regions. It is said that, see, India is a country, India is called as a wet country. You know that, right? India is called as wet country. Why it is called as a wet country? Because it's the amount of water, amount of rainfall which we get in India in the form of fresh water, it is more than the average rainfall which the world gets. This average rainfall the world gets somewhere in the range of 100 or something, and India gets around 120. So India is a wet country. But even after this fact, India is a water scarce nation. It has deficiency of water. We do not have enough water with us. Why? Because the areas such as, let's say, Mawsynjra and Cherrapunji, if you say, or in the region of West Bengal, where the rainfall is very significant, even in the South Indian states where the rainfall is very significant. The rainfall is torrential in nature. The monsoonal rainfall is torrential. We all know the rainfall would come and it will just fall over the surface very fast and it would go. So such rainfall is called as torrential rainfall. Such torrential rainfall has a characteristic feature that when it falls over the surface with a strong force, rather than percolating within the surface, that water just flows and goes into the sea. So the rivers would have more floods. Such rivers would move into the sea very fast. So water doesn't go into the underground, like groundwater level doesn't increase, so reservoirs doesn't increase much. Rather, you would see that the water tend to move much faster into the sea. While the areas in which in India the rainfall is less, for example, the western part of Rajasthan, the eastern part of Western Ghats, here the rainfall is less. The semi-arid and the arid conditions have got developed over here. So in that case, in these regions, you would see that the overall water scarcity is tremendous, right? Because there is no water at all, the groundwater nahi hai, surface water nahi hai, so there is nothing in this region, and because of that, the out migration becomes significant. So one of the key challenges also is that because of the scarcity of the water, people tend to move out from that region. Now when the people move out and go into some different area, the cultural conflicts are also there. Because they would move into some different region in which they are not familiar with that culture, neither the people over there in the new region are familiar with their own culture, the culture of the people who have migrated. In that case, the cultural conflicts may arise, isn't it? So that's one thing. Over extraction and depletion. So if you don't have enough surface water, you will tend to extract more and more groundwater. Now if you extract more and more groundwater, over the period of time, even the groundwater resources would also deplete. Example is Punjab. In Punjab, you would see that overall water has got extracted so much that now the water level has gone down significantly. In such areas where the water level goes down very significantly, over there the water contamination also occurs very easily. Because if the water is huge enough, if the water is in the large number, like a good volume of water is there. So in that large volume of water, even if you add some impurity in the form of fluoride, arsenic or something like that, so in that case the water won't get contaminated per se. But then if the amount of water, the volume of water is less, in the less volume of water, even the little amount of contamination can create havoc. So contamination would also increase. So water pollution would also increase as the next point which they have written over here. So that's how we can analyze. Along with that, political and institutional challenges are also there, isn't it? Political and institutional challenges, that means the basically interstate water disputes which are there. So we also have to tackle that. In India, you can see that there is so much of dispute is there regarding the sharing of water between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So Tamil Nadu and Karnataka has a lot of issue regarding sharing of water of the Kaveri. It's because of the scarcity of the water in this particular river itself, isn't it? So that's there. What can be the adaptive measures? I don't know whether they have asked adaptive measures or not. Let's see. What are the key challenges faced by the countries? So see in this question, although we have mentioned the adaptive measures and all, you don't need to give this much focus on adaptive measures. Adaptive measures in this question has to be there in the conclusion. So it has to be of 4 lines, maybe 4 to 5 lines, not more than that. Here we have written those adaptive measures just to make sure that you should know all the things properly. That's why. Otherwise, it's not needed in this question because it has not been asked. Next is, how is climate change affecting the agricultural practices in India's Indo-Gangetic Plain? What adaptive measures are farmers adopting to cope with these challenges? So, what are the climate change affecting, how is climate change affecting the agricultural practices in India's Indo-Gangetic Plain? Now remember, the keyword over here is climate change, agriculture practice in India's Indo-Gangetic Plain. The question is about Indo-Gangetic Plain, so you cannot end up writing common points which is valid for entire world. You have to pick up some of the regions specifically and you need to mention that what are the new things which they are doing over there. For example, I may pick up the region of West Bengal because Indo-Gangetic Plain, so I will have to pick up all the regions, right? So if I am talking about West Bengal where the rice cultivation is prominent, if you see in the rice cultivation area, the water logging problem is there because the climate change has led to more rainfall in those eastern states. What happens is, because of too much of water logging, the rice crop loss may take place. In order to fight against that, our scientists have developed such varieties of rice which can tolerate the higher amount of water as well. So even if there is significant amount of water in the field, still the rice crop will not die. So that is one of the adaptive measures our farmers have taken into account. So that's how, what you need to do is, you need to take each and every state and you need to write the adaptive measures which the farmers have taken over there. So there are, when we talk about Indo-Gangetic Plain, so what are all regions of Indo-Gangetic Plain we are talking about over here? You need to talk about Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, maybe West Bengal. So these are the areas you need to talk about because these are the part of Indo-Gangetic Plain region. So, impact of climate change on agricultural practices in Indo-Gangetic Plain. Temperature increases in the heat stress. If you see, this year it is extremely hot. This is nothing but the climate change talking. If you see in the region of Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, the overall water is significantly lower than what it used to be. So the water level is decreasing, the heat stress is increasing on the crop. Because of that, the crops, some of the crops, they are dying, but some of the crops are maturing early as well. So that is the reason because of which the crop loss takes place significantly. In higher heat condition, the chances of development of bacteria and the fungi and even the attacks from the pest also becomes quite significant. It also becomes quite prominent. So in the region of Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan, increase in temperature is also leading to increase in heat stress, which is also leading to the wheat crop loss. Wheat crops in Uttar Pradesh have suffered yield decline due to temperature rising above optimal level because the wheat is a rabi crop. Rabi crop can be grown in the winter season, but the temperature doesn't reduce up to that level that will get enough time to grow this wheat crop. So irregular monsoon pattern is also there. We can see that in the Bihar has experienced untimely heavy rainfall in 2020, which led to flooding and widespread damage to the kharif crop, particularly paddy, just before the harvest season. So that means what happens over here is irregular monsoon pattern is also catching farmers unaware. The farmers are getting surprised because of that, and that's the reason because of which the crop loss is taking place. So irregular monsoon pattern, water scarcity in some of the areas. You can see the region of Punjab, Haryana and the Rajasthan where the groundwater table is also declining, isn't it? Then after that we have soil fertility decline. When climate change is happening because of irregular rainfall, Because of this irregular rainfall, some of the areas are facing heat stress, more and more rainfall, less and less rainfall is taking place over there. So because of less rainfall, what happens is, as you have less rainfall, then in that case you would use more surface water, and when surface water gets depleted, you will use more groundwater. As more and more groundwater gets exploited, the soil does not get enough moisture from the bottom, because one of the major source of moisture for the soil is the groundwater as well. So if the soil is not going to get enough moisture from the bottom, then in that case the soil will lose its fertility over the period of time, because the soil erosion will become prominent. So that's also one of the problem we have. So adaptive measures by the farmers in the Indo-Gangetic plains are what? They have diversified the crop. So they are, rather than taking only wheat and rice, which are becoming more and more susceptible to the climate change, some of the crops which are more tolerant to the heat stress, such as the millets, in which we can talk about the jowar, bajra and the ragi, such crops are also being promoted. So that is also there. So Punjab Crop Diversification Program, PCDP, is also encouraged over there. In West Bengal, floating gardens are also being started. So floating gardens, that means what? Because of excessive rainfall, whether too much of waterlogging conditions are getting developed. So we have developed such crops, such rice varieties which can also survive in that. Improving irrigation efficiency. Some of the areas in which the rainfall is very less and the heat stress is there, over there the drip irrigation system, micro irrigation systems are being promoted. While there are certain areas where too much of rainfall is there, in that too much of rainfall condition where the, let's say this is the river, in that case too much of rainfall would cause floods. So channelization of the river can be done so that the flood conditions won't occur. So in the areas of high rainfall, the channelization is there, while in the areas of very less rainfall, what do we do is, in areas of very less rainfall, rather than like micro irrigation practices are being followed. When it's about scarcity of water because of the climate change, you can also talk about the Rajendra Singh, who is called as the waterman of India. The Rajendra Singh from Arwari village, he has invented this Johar system over there, and because of that the problem of water could be solved up to certain extent, up to significant level. So in the areas of water stress, the problem of water scarcity could be resolved. So that example you can give. Adopting integrated pest management strategies. Because of high temperature region, the pest attack becomes very significant. So integrated pest management program supports these efforts by educating farmers and providing resources to implement these sustainable pest management technologies. So that is also something can be done. Implementing soil conservation measures such as watershed management program, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. So earlier watershed management program was there, it used to be called as integrated watershed management program. What is integrated watershed management program? Here the farmers are being educated that how to conserve the soil moisture and how to use water to the utmost efficiency, to the most efficient level. This program later was restructured and was named as Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, isn't it? So using weather forecasting and agro advisory services. So in Bihar, Kisan Suvidha portals are being utilized in order to see the weather pattern as well. So that is also something which is being done. Now, next question is, evaluate the role of green revolution in transforming the agricultural practices and food security in the Indian subcontinent. So talking about the agriculture practices, here the question is very simple, talking about the green revolution. Evaluate the role of the green revolution in transforming agricultural practices. So agriculture practices is one keyword, food security over here is another keyword. So green revolution, agriculture practices and food security in the Indian subcontinent. Now let's talk about this. In green revolution, agricultural practices ki agar baat kare, so what agriculture practices are being improved? So here we can see that farmers started using HYV seeds, which are high variety, high quality seeds. because of use of HYV seeds, mechanization of agriculture has started in India for the first time. Farmers started using harvesters and threshers for the first time. Along with that, because of this mechanization, so HYV seeds was there, then the mechanization of agriculture was also there, along with use of technology such as precision farming has also been started. Commercialization of agriculture has started for the first time in India. Commercialization of agriculture has also started for the first time in India because of the Green Revolution. So these are some of the agriculture practices. Along with that, farmers throughout the India started taking wheat crops. So diversification of crop got restricted. Restriction in diversity of crop. So all farmers started taking only wheat and rice and all. So that is also one of the agriculture practices which in negative manner we can mention. Excessive use of groundwater. So over exploitation of groundwater has also happened. Along with that, if we talk about the food security, so India became a food secure nation. So we can also write some fact about this, that before Green Revolution 52 million ton was our overall production of food grain, and after Green Revolution now currently India has more than 300 million tons of food production. So multi-fold increase in the food production has happened, and because of that India has become a food secure nation, so much so that we could run our PDS system efficiently. Today 80 crore Indians are getting food grains free of cost to run their houses, right? It's because of somewhere this has happened because of the steps which we have taken during Green Revolution, right? So that is there. Along with that, increased production is one of theirs. The stabilized food prices, improved livelihoods of the people and the farmers. Some of the challenges are also there. Challenges I have already talked over here: excessive use of groundwater, restriction in the diversity of the crops, and along with that the interpersonal disparity has also increased. Only few farmers got benefited, other farmers didn't get benefited. But then my point over here is, the question is not asking about that, so we should refrain from writing those points. You should only focus on change in agriculture practices and how it has changed the food security. For that you have to give some facts. Next, evaluate the challenges and opportunities of urbanization in India. So evaluate the challenges and opportunities of urbanization in India with a focus on the growth of mega cities and development of smart cities. So we have to write what? Challenges and opportunities of urbanization, isn't it? With a focus on mega cities and smart cities. What you can do is, in this particular question, you can write about mega city, challenges of mega city, opportunities are there in the challenge city, mega cities and all. Along with that, you can write separately about the smart cities, the challenges and the opportunities and all. Let's talk about this. When we talk about the mega cities, so first of all you should write what is the definition of mega city in India. In India, the country, if a particular city has a population of more than 5 million, then in that case we define it as a mega city. In India, only 4 cities are mega city: Kolkata, Delhi, Bombay and Chennai. These are the mega cities which are there. Now, what are the challenges? Overpopulation. Because of overpopulation, there is excessive burden on the resources. That's one problem. Along with that, urban sprawl. So what is urban sprawl? Without development of a proper infrastructure, the urban infrastructure, the people just start spreading that urban area. Because of that, the overall quality of the urban structure degrades significantly. This is also one of the reasons that the UN in its report, World Urbanization Report, they have mentioned that India's urbanization is nothing but extended form of ruralization. Why? Because our urban cities actually look like in a rural area where the buildings are not up to the mark, the infrastructure, the road, the connecting links, the railway, the metro station, the public transportation facilities, they are not up to the mark, and that's why they have categorized this as a part of extended form of ruralization. Resource management. So in India, the top heavy structure, you can always mention that top heavy structure is one of the problem we have. What is top heavy structure? Generally, if you see in developed countries, let's say if this is the city structure, that okay, this is mega city, this is the metropolitan city, this is tier 1 city, tier 2 city, and then after that there is a small village. Now in the developed country, when the people tend to move, because in developed country the government has focused on development of all the regions, not just the topmost city as such. Because of that, what happens is the resources are distributed evenly, the job opportunities are available everywhere, isn't it? That's why a person from village, he would move over here in the tier 3 city. The tier 3 city person will move towards tier 2, tier 2 will move towards tier 1, then after that mega city. So this is called as the step migration. This is called as step migration. While if you see in India, because the opportunities are not available enough anywhere, so in that case people will move, even the person from village would move towards mega city. Everybody would want to move towards mega city, and that's why this is called as the top heavy structure, right, where everyone want to move in the mega city region. So that is called as top heavy structure. Opportunities, if we talk about what are all opportunities which are there. So urban regeneration projects. So have they asked about opportunities over here? Yes, absolutely. So what are the opportunities? Urban regeneration projects are there. Redevelopment of Mumbai's Dharavi slum, for example. Recently, Maharashtra government and Adani, both of them have signed a pact that they will redevelop and redesign the Dharavi slum regions. In that case, urban regeneration projects are there. Economic diversification is also other opportunity. For example, Bangalore is known as Silicon Valley of India, so more and more IT penetration. The cultural centers also can be improved. So that is these are the opportunities. Development of smart cities. Challenges kya isme? Integration of old and new, right? So for instance, Varanasi, one of the oldest cities in the world, faces difficulties in integrating smart city initiatives like advanced surveillance and modern utilities and all. So the cities which are old, if we want to develop them as a part of smart cities, it becomes very difficult to take that old infrastructure and connect it with the new technologies. So that's one problem. Along with that, social stratification, people over there still follows a lot of rudimentary thinkings, and that's why that also leads to other problem. Sustainability concerns are also there because of unplanned urbanization which has happened in those cities. Opportunities में क्या लिखेंगे? Efficient resource management, enhanced public services, economic innovation hubs. These are some of the points which can be written over here. Next, examine the significance of China's dominance in the production of rare earth elements. How does this influence global technology industries? Now, when we talk about the rare earth elements, when the question is about rare earth elements, it's very important, very much pertinent that we first of all write what are all rare earth elements, isn't it? So rare earth elements are lanthanides, scandium and yttrium. So 15 lanthanides, 1 scandium and yttrium, 1 yttrium. So there are total 17 rare earth elements we have. So in your introduction you can write about the rare earth elements. So rare earth elements are the one which are nothing but the 17 elements of the periodic table. 15 of them are the lanthanides, while one is scandium and the other is yttrium. So that's how you can start your answer. You can also mention over there in your introduction that in the world 60% of the total production of rare earth elements happens in China, while 80% of the total global reserves are present in China itself. This shows the dominance of China in the availability of the rare earth elements. Why there this so much of UN cry about rare earth elements? Why they are so important? Because these are very important for production of mobile phones, the electronic gadgets, the solar panels, the defense artilleries, the satellite communication networks. So for all of them, rare earth elements are very, very important. That's why China has a significant uphold over here. They have significant say over here, because for any country to develop any technology, to develop any hardware, they will be needing what? They will be needing rare earth elements. Every solar panel requires a photovoltaic cell. Now this photovoltaic cell requires rare earth elements to make, and that's why the factories of photovoltaic cells are present in China, and today India is dependent on China for import of photovoltaic cells. That means even if we have signed the Paris agreement, in which we have pledged that we will be producing producing a significant amount of renewable energy, whatever our targets are. So in that case, if we are focusing more on solar energy, for solar panels, we are dependent on China. So production and supply chain control is one of the significance of China's dominance over here. China produces 60% of the world's rare earth elements and controls approximately 85% of the global processing capacity. Along with that, China has established a highly integrated supply chain for rare earth elements, right, encompassing mining, processing and manufacturing, which gives it substantial control over global resources. So it's not just India, even US is also dependent on China for this. The next is economic and strategic leverage. China has the ability to impose export restrictions or quotas on rare earth elements, which can disrupt global supply chains and affect the production of high-tech goods. China's dominance in rare earth element market can be leveraged by a geopolitical tool. See, that's along with that influence on global technology industries. All technology industries, as I said, mobile, telephones, so all those industries, innovation, development industries also, they have to be dependent on China for development of their hardware. So that's how basically the dominance of China can be explained in the rare earth elements. How do plate tectonics influence the formation of mountain ranges and their subsequent impact on the climate? What do we need to do in this particular question? Plate tectonic you all know, so you need to write the definition of plate tectonic. Formation of mountain ranges. So how mountain ranges form? There are three types of mountain ranges over here: fold mountain, volcanic mountains and the block mountains. Now because the plate tectonic is being asked, so we'll write about the convergence, the divergence and transform boundary fault. And in all those convergence, divergence and transform boundary fault, you will talk about how in which one of them the fold mountains form, the volcanic mountain forms and the block mountain forms. So you will write in convergence both fold and the fold and volcanic mountains are formed over here. In the divergence, block mountains are mostly formed. In the transform boundary fault, the block mountains are formed, right? So in that case, what you can do is you can mention the type of mountains which form because of this plate tectonic activity, and then after that, describing their distribution throughout the world, you can explain their impact on the climate. You can take example of Himalayas. Himalayas are responsible for monsoon type of climate, let's say. Along with that, and you will explain it, that how they are responsible for monsoon type of climate. If there wouldn't have been a Himalaya, what kind of climate would have been there? Along with that, Rockies and Andes. For Rockies and Andes, we can write about those Rockies, Andes and the Alps. You can write about the local winds such as Chinook, Fohn, Zonda. So those winds you can mention, their impact on the climate can also be mentioned. That's how basically you will tackle this question. I feel this question was very easy. You could have attempted this question very nicely. What role do underwater mountains play in the dynamics of ocean circulation? So if you talk about underwater mountains, so we are talking about what? Underwater mountains, that means the sea mounts we are talking about, not the island sea mounts. So what role do they play? These are one of the minor features of the oceanic surface. That's how you will write in the introduction. So sea mounts, guyots, these are the underwater mountains we are talking about. So they play a very important role in the overall ocean circulation. How can it be explained? So this is how it can explain. Because of the underwater mountains, the ocean circulation, ocean currents gets bifurcated, they gets modified, they change their direction. We can explain this in the form of that when the north equatorial current in the Atlantic Ocean collide with some of the Caribbean, the sea mounts in the Caribbean region, over there they get bifurcated into some of the branches such as the Caribbean current, the Antilles current, in which we have Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles current. So they get bifurcated into those many currents. Along with that, even the Gulf Stream gets bifurcated into two branches. One is Gulf Stream and the other is North Atlantic Drift because of the presence of underwater mountains. Are we clear with this? So that's how the ocean currents. Now this North Atlantic Drift modifies the climate of Europe because of this. So this is how you can mention that this is one role. Along with that, if the water is colliding with the mountain, just like air, the water would also try to move up. If it is from the top, it is colliding with the mountain, it will try to come down. So basically circulation, the churning of water takes place because of the presence of underwater mountain system. The churning of water takes place over here, so that is also one of the benefit. Sometimes the mountains and the sea mounts, they have volcanic eruptions happening over there. So let's suppose this mountain has some volcanic eruption happening over here. So in the volcanic eruption case, the water over here will become hot, isn't it? The hot water will spread out and the cold water then will try to move up. So in that case, the churning of water again would be able to happen, right? It is also important for biological activities. So that's how basically you can explain the role of underwater mountain in the dynamics of ocean circulation, isn't it? Next, discuss the flood management strategies employed in the Ganga Brahmaputra Delta. How do these strategies mitigate the impact of annual monsoon floods? Now you can divide this answer into two parts, structural and non-structural measures. The structural measures can be development of embankment and the dikes and the flood storage reservoir. So how flood management, discuss the flood management strategies employed in the Indo-Gangetic Plain region. So for example, Ganga Brahmaputra they are talking about. So for example, if you talk about the flood management strategies in the Assam region, Brahmaputra region, over there the house structure is being made in such a way that they are developed on the uplifted area. So if this is the surface, so there are some bamboo shafts are there and the houses are being constructed over these shafts. So this is called as machan. So in Assam, people have developed machan to protect themselves against flood. Along with that, in Assam, the regular mode of transportation is in the form of boats. So people move through boats very easily. So that's how they have adapted to the situation. Along with that, the channelization of river is also one of the system. Too much of rainfall has led to flooding in the deltaic region. So for example, Bangladesh and even the West Bengal. Because of that, the channelization of the water is being done. Channelization of water, what it does is, it reduces the chances of flood because the water gets distributed. That's one thing. Along with that, the flow of the water can be controlled by constructing dams and the check dams. Farakka Barrage and Tehri Dam, these are some of the examples because of which we can mention that yes, the flow of the water is getting controlled over there. So here they must have written the construction of Farakka Barrage along the Ganga helps control of water flow and prevent floods in the adjacent areas. Along with that, Tehri Dam on the Bhagirathi river serves as a flood storage reservoir, mitigating flood risk downstream. What happens is, in the Himalayan region, from the Himalayan region, if some river is coming all the way from the top, so if the river is coming from the top, it brings with it a lot of sediments and a lot of small rocks and the big rocks. So when it comes from the top and it flows over the flat surface, its velocity reduces achanak se, and because of that the water spreads over the surface causing flood. So this water which is coming all the way from the top, here some dam can be constructed which will protect us from the flood causing in the downstream areas. That has been done as well. Non-structural measures में early warning system is one of the important aspect for the flood. So flood forecasting and the warning network by the Central Water Commission provides regular updates. So that is an example you can always mention. Along with that, floodplain zoning. What is floodplain zoning? Generally what happens is, if you go in the Rishikesh, you would see that the the hotels and the houses over there are being constructed in such a way that, let's say this is the river, so hotels are immediately present just along the river. But the problem is, if the hotels are present just along the river, little bit amount of flood and all the hotels would get inundated. Rather than this, what we can do is we can develop floodplain zoning method like this. Of water, so if the water is causing flood, no construction should be allowed in the A area, while most of the construction should be allowed in the B area. So even if the flood would come, it would come in the A area. So river should be given enough space to move. This is called as floodplain zoning. So encroachment of the river floodplain should not happen. So that is called floodplain zoning. Along with that, community based approach, where the community preparedness, so community disaster management, where community members are being trained to protect, in case of to protect their near dear ones or the people who are living in that community in cases of floods, right? Sustainable agriculture practices can also be followed in that case. The next question is, assess the effectiveness of the tsunami early warning system in the Indian Ocean following the 2004 tsunami. How have these systems been improved since then, and what are the current challenges? This is the question from disaster management. Remember this, in India in 2005 National Disaster Management Agency was defined. The reason why I have defined NDMA is because in 1999 we have seen Odisha cyclone, isn't it? Immediately in 2001 Bhuj earthquake, and in 2004 then we have seen tsunami. Because of this back-to-back three significant incidences, we had to develop NDMA. Before NDMA, National Disaster Management Agency, before NDMA, government used to focus more on during disaster and post-disaster measures. However, in all the phases of disaster, you would see that the pre-disaster management is also there. Now, after 2005, India started focusing more on pre-disaster management strategies, where, see, whenever any kind of disaster comes, there are two stakeholders over there. One is disaster itself and the other is people. If the disaster is very powerful and the people are very vulnerable, then the disaster will strike and the people will die. When we talk about the pre-disaster management, in that case what we need to do is we need to make people strong and the disaster weak. How do we able to make people strong? By community based management, by training people, by making them, by feeding them enough as well, by educating them. So these are the means through which we make people strong. While how do we make disaster weak? By various structural and non-structural methods. For example, if we talk about the tsunami, constructing the coastal wall, the coastal dikes, plantation of mangroves, these are some of the methods through which the overall impact of tsunami could be reduced. Now, talking about what exactly is the steps we have taken after 2004. So these are the steps. We have planted mangroves along the eastern coastal line of India. We have placed the dikes as well over there, tripods as well over there. So there are these tripods which are being placed along the coastal area so that the impact of water surge can be reduced. So tsunami's surge could be reduced because of this tripod structure and all. So these are the methods we have adopted. Along with that, if you go towards Andaman and Nicobar, over there ocean bayous are also there. Now what is this concept of ocean bayous? In Indian Ocean region, ocean bayous are kept like this, such as small balloons are there. These small balloons here, the sound is being released down and then this echo can be sent back. Sound signal goes below and the echo comes up. Because of this sound going down and the echo coming up, because of this what happens is the depth of the water can be tracked, the flow of the water can be understood. So because of this, overall changes in the water can be noticed. So ocean bayous are floating near Andaman and Nicobar region. Because of that, the early warning system can be implemented. Along with that, we have also done this regular drills for the South Asian and the Southeast Asian countries together, and inter-country coordination are also being improved after 2004 tsunami, so that in case tsunami comes in some area, in one country, they can inform other country beforehand, so that other country will be able to take certain steps to protect against that particular tsunami. So these are some of the methods we have followed, isn't it? Alright guys, hello guys, so let's start with the next question. Last time we have stopped somewhere at the question number 10. The next question is, investigate the rapid melting of Arctic ice cap and its implication for global sea levels and climate patterns. What are the potential geopolitical and environmental consequences of an ice-free Arctic? Now in this particular question, what we need to do is, we need to find out first of all the keywords. So let's find out the keywords, and then after that we'll start discussing this question, because as I have said, whenever you start writing any answer, first of all you need to find out keywords for that particular question, and then after that you start writing your introduction, then body and conclusion. Because what happens is, many times students face difficulty in starting with the introduction and even giving the conclusion as well. So what they do is, in the introduction they end up writing question in active passive form. So if the whatever the question is, so they'll just jumble up the words and then they'll write the same question once again in the introduction form. So that's not the correct way of writing your introduction. So rather than that, what you need to do is, you just underline the keyword, the important word on the basis of which you are supposed to write an answer. And now once you know the keyword, you try to give definition of that keyword, or you try to justify that particular keyword, or with the help of some fact, some report maybe, or something like that. So that's how basically you give your introduction. And then after that, the body part, we know, we have discussed how to write those body parts. And the conclusion always has to be solution oriented. So try to give solutions, even if they have not been asked, but then try to give solutions for your answer. So let's start with this. Investigate the rapid melting of the Arctic ice cap. So this question says rapid melting of Arctic ice cap. So that's Arctic ice cap is one keyword over here, and its implication for global sea level, and even for the climate patterns. What are the potential geopolitical and environmental consequences? Somewhere or the other, when you are discussing its implication on the global sea level and the climate pattern, somewhere or the other you will be explaining its environmental consequences only. So it's nothing but repetition of the points, but otherwise these are the keywords which are there over here. Now investigate the rapid melting of the Arctic ice cap, they are asking. So first of all, what we can do is, in the introduction we can say what are the major reasons for the Arctic ice cap to melt. So that is something you need to mention over there in the introduction. So Arctic ice cap, which is a very important source of fresh water, and it's being locked over there for, let's say, millions of years, both in the Arctic and even the Antarctic. So in the world there are three important glaciated zones which we have. One is Arctic, Antarctic, and then the other is the Greenland, right? So even if one of those important glaciers melt, it can create havoc in the form of increase in the sea level, decrease in the salinity, changing in the precipitation pattern, changing in the planetary wind system over the Earth's surface. So that's why it becomes very important for us to analyze that what would be the implication of those. So let's see, implication for global sea level and climate change. First of all, yes, global sea level will change. The most important thing over here is, in the global sea level, there is a Warsaw Summit which has taken place, and according to that, various countries, so I hope you must be knowing about Warsaw Summit, in which various countries have come together, and the responsibility regarding the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and the resultant climate change had to be defined. So responsibilities had to be defined, where the developed countries of the world, that the US, China, the big countries, and along with that even in India as well. So these countries have played very big role in releasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and the climate change which has happened because of the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and the melting of ice, that climate change impact could be seen mostly on a worst level. It could be seen mostly in those island countries. So island countries are demanding that we have not released carbon dioxide to that level, but whenever its impact would be seen, the first and foremost, the most important, the first people who would be facing those catastrophic burden of melting of glaciers and increase in the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would be those island countries. We can see the impact of this in those countries in the form of like in Indonesia. Recently they have changed their capital from Jakarta to Kalimantan, citing this fact that the Jakarta's significant landmass of Jakarta will be underwater after few years or so, and then they have changed their capital. This shows that the island countries are in danger. Micronesian countries, Polynesian countries, Indonesia, then even Vietnam as well. Vietnam, Taiwan. These countries are under danger because of the increase in the sea level. So melting of ice, that will create first. Second is because of the melting. When we talk about the planetary circulations over the Earth's surface, so planetary circulations would change because the polar wind which we talk about. But then first is they have asked about sea level, right? Sea level, what impact would create? So ocean current directions would also change. Today we see that the Labrador current, which is coming from the north, and even the Oyashi current, which is coming from the north near Japan, and the Labrador current coming near eastern part of the North America. These ocean currents are generating because of the melting of ice, isn't it? So when the ice melting would get pronounced, what would happen? The ocean currents coming from the north, these cold ocean currents, even the Humboldt current of the southern hemisphere, and even the West Australian current, these ocean currents will become strong. Now what would be the impact of them? When the Labrador current and the Oyashi current will become strong, the positions for the fishing areas would change somewhere or the other, because they are meeting the Gulf Stream and the Kuroshio current and all. Along with that, because of the increase in the strength of the West Australian current, the Indian Ocean dipole would also get enhanced, and that's the reason because of which it would also create impact on the climatic system of the Asian countries, right? Even when we talk about the Humboldt current, when the Humboldt current will become pronounced, it will become stronger, the impact of El Nino would also get pronounced on the various parts of the world. So that would be the impact because of the increase in sea level, and even the climate patterns we can also mention over there. So we have explained how sea level and the climate pattern would get affected because of the ice melting. What are the potential geopolitical and the environmental consequences? So in geopolitical consequences we can mention, currently in if you see near Southeast Asian region, there is a country called as Singapore. Now most of the world trade which is happening in the Indian Ocean region and even the Pacific zone, around 40% of the world trade which is happening in the world, that it's taking place through Singapore. That is the major reason why the Singapore is a developed country even after having no significant amount of resources with them. It is said that when the Arctic Ocean route will open up, the same transportation system which has got developed significantly, the port which has got developed in Singapore, it will shift towards South Korea. Now South Korea will become the next destination for the development of such ports. So that is one geopolitical aspect we can mention. So South Korea will get benefited quite significantly because of this. Along with that, we can also mention that because of the melting of the ice in the northern part, various trade routes will get opened up, trade routes in the form of Northern Sea and the northwestern region near Russia and all. So when those trade routes will get opened, it will become very easy for the countries in the north to have access with respect to each other. They don't need to go through Suez Canal, they don't need to cross all the way towards to the African continent. Rather, the entire trade route will get opened. Somewhere or the other, it will create a bigger gap between the first world and the third world countries, because the first world countries of the world are majorly situated in the northern part, near the temperate areas of the northern hemisphere, while the third world countries of the world are majorly situated in the tropical and the equatorial region, barring some exceptions obviously. So that's why it is said that the disparity between the various countries in the world will increase. That's first thing. Along with that, the second aspect associated with this is various trade routes will get opened up, right? So that is another geopolitical aspect we can mention. Along with that, because of the melting of the Arctic ice, it is said that Arctic region is a storehouse of the various oil reserves, the various types of gases and all, natural gas for that matter. So there is a kind of competition going on between the various countries to have access, because right now there is no one who can claim that we are the owner of this particular resource. So various countries are trying to have their hold on the various regions of Arctic, because they know that once the Arctic ice will melt, a lot of resources could be explored from the Arctic ice melting. Okay, Russia, which has the largest coastline with the Arctic region, Russia claims more access of it. Along with that, Canada and even the countries which do not have enough coastline, they are also trying to have trying to create allies with the littoral countries. Okay, so this is the geopolitical aspect. Along with that, one climatic impact, environmental consequence, we can mention that the methane gas would get released, carbon dioxide gas would get released into the atmosphere because of melting of ice. That would result into increase in the temperature of the atmosphere, right, because they act as a greenhouse gas. So that point also can be mentioned over here. Shall we move forward then? Chalo. Next. The 12th question. The 12th question is, discuss the barriers to the adoption of modern agriculture. Discuss the barriers to the adoption of barrier they are asking. So barrier is one of the important keyword. Adoption of modern agricultural technologies by the small and marginal farmers. Small and marginal farmers, what policy intervention can facilitate the dissemination and adoption of these technologies, right? Now, barriers to the adoption of modern agriculture technologies. What can be the barriers? To simplify this, see, every answer which you give, first of all, it needs to be analyzed on a broader scale, as in on a very superficial scale, superficial level. And then after that, you go into detail of it. Then only you will be able to answer, think properly. What happens is, from the first instance itself, like when you read the question, even immediately after reading the question, you start thinking too deep. Here the most important barrier which I can think is because the farmers are poor. They cannot afford to buy new technology. Secondly, because they are poor, why they are poor? Because they have the small land holdings. So in the small land holdings, even if the agricultural technologies are relatively cheaper, even after that there is no incentive for them to opt for this for these technologies. Imagine, see, let's talk about micro irrigation system, let's say drip irrigation. It is said that drip irrigation has lots of benefits and lots of incentives associated with it, lots of increase in the production and all. But if you take an example, a farmer who has a very small land holding with him, छोटी सी land है उसके पास, that farmer does not have any incentive for that matter to opt for micro irrigation. Why? Because whatever, even the little expenditure which is there, whatever little expenditure he'll do into micro irrigation system, his overall production and his overall expenditure, whatever money he would earn through production and whatever money he would spend in the implementation of this technology, there would always be a gap where the technological expenditure would always be more. And that's why it is very important that government should go for subsidies, or maybe some cooperatives or collaborative efforts should be there where a single technological use could be availed by many farmers at one go in a given season. So that kind of things which we can implement. We'll write about it at the end of this particular answer, where what steps government can take in those things. So what are the other barriers we can see? The barriers are the type of crops which are being taken over here, irregular climatic system which is present in our country. There is no foolproof monsoon proof system which we have. Our country is not 100% under irrigation, right? So if you do not have enough water available with us, if we do not have enough water available with us, how exactly we are going to implement the technology? Because whenever you implement technology, you need to put more fertilizer, you need to use more water as well. But then if irrigation facilities are not there, then the farmers have to be dependent only on the monsoonal rainfall, which is uneven, which is erratic in nature. How do we expect that we farmers will be using technology? Because if you put a lot of money in technology in that year, let's say there is no rainfall at all. Let's say El Nino year is there, and because of that farmers would not receive enough rainfall. And as we know that we do not have irrigation facilities in entire country, in every part of the country. Then in that case, what farmer would do with that technology? So these aspects also need to be taken into account, isn't it? So what are the solutions for this? Solution is, first of all, one more thing which is as a problem we can write over there is farmers mostly are uneducated, illiterate. That's why they don't know. Even if you implement the technology, the complexity associated with that is so heavy that farmers won't be able to get trained enough. They'll not be able to understand what's going on. They'll not be able to operate it. The cost of operating that technology itself would also become very high, and that's why farmer would not want to go for that technology. There is a kind of phobia which is there among the farmers because they are not educated, or most of them are half educated. So in that case they have kind of phobia to go for new technology. They feel as if they have to operate it all together. They have to sit on a computer or something like that. That kind of phobia which is there in their mind, that also desists them to go for new technology, isn't it? So these aspects are there. If you go in the rural area, out of 100 farmers who are present over there, rural areas, you must be seeing technology all around you because you stay in a big city maybe. But then if you go into a very rural region, where over there are 100 farmers are there. Now among those 100 farmers, even if one farmer think about implementing the new technology, other people will laugh at it. Other people will not they will mock that person. They laugh on that person. So that effort has to be cumulative. What solutions are there? Creating awareness. That's the most important thing. It is said that in India, only 10 to 12% people who are doing agriculture, only 10 to 12% people are opting for micro irrigation system. This is very low. Citing this fact that micro irrigation system is so important for India because India is water scarce country. So because of that, first of all we need to create awareness among our farmers. Secondly, we need to train them, isn't it? We need to create training schools, vocational schools for the farmers so that they'll be able to understand the technology. Recently one technology, let's say we have talked about it, the hydroponics, the technology of hydroponics. Now how many farmers know about hydroponics? Jabki in the country where the agricultural land is declining, it's very important that our farmers need to go for a vertical farming. Now hydroponic provides a very good system. Hydroponic can give a very good result if farmers actually go for this technology. Even the poly farming can also give a good result. But then farmers do not know where to take training. In India, there are only 2 centers where you can take training for poly farming. Why can't we increase more centers? So the centers has to be within the reach. A person who is living in Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, he cannot think of going all the way to Maharashtra or maybe Haryana to avail, because these are the only 2 regions where the technology for the training centers for poly farming is available. So you cannot think that the farmer would go all the way to Maharashtra or Haryana to avail that training. So various training centers need to be established by the government for that, isn't it? Along with that, government also need to ensure that the farmers should get enough price for their produce. The current APMC system won't work efficiently. We have to bring some model in which farmers will not get exploited. Government has brought ENAM system, right? ENAM as in Electronic National Agriculture Market. but then where the various mandis have been collaborated on the e-platform. But then again, there are so many laxities and there are so many loopholes which are still present in it. We have to take care of those issues as well, isn't it? So these are the methods, these are the things which farmers can do. So lack of access to information, infrastructure deficiencies, market access, so all those points which we have discussed, those points are there. Policy interventions can be financial support and subsidies, as I said, that the collaborative efforts can be there. Let's say in a given village, a single micro irrigation system could be utilized by all the farmers one by one. That can be given on a rent maybe, or subsidies can be given to a farmer, so that such things can be there, so that farmers will not have to, they won't have to face any difficulty or financial strain, right? Next, compare and contrast the distribution of coal reserves in the United States, China and India. How does the abundance of coal influence energy policies in these countries? Now understand, the question says compare and contrast. So compare and contrast the distribution of coal reserves in which countries? US, China and India. You should know which regions are there. In United States, coal reserves are found mostly in the area of Appalachians. Along with that, it is also found in the areas of Alaska. Now this is the region. Contrast mein kya likhoge? You would also write that the kind of coal which is found in the North America, that coal is the carboniferous coal. Carboniferous coal, that means what? It is the anthracite coal, a very high quality coal. However, because of excessive industrialization which has taken place in North America, the coal reserves are being utilized. So now those coal reserves are not there anymore, as in they are there, but they are in less quantity. So US has to import coal reserves as well, because whatever huge amount of coal reserves they had in the Appalachian Mountains, they have utilized it. If we talk about China, China has coal reserves which are inferior. They are present in Shaanxi and Shaanxi province, which is present in the kind of northeastern part of China near Yellow River. Now that is a region which is highly urbanized. The region is very much urbanized. It becomes very difficult to extract reserves from there, and along with that, the reserves are not very high quality, right? So that is also in contrast. You would write the quality, about the quality, the region in which those coal reserves are there. In India, the coal reserves are present in Chota Nagpur Plateau. Most of the India's coal is Gondwana coal, and along with the Gondwana coal, we also have tertiary coal in the northeast India. But the extraction, the coal policies which are there, the extraction coal policies, a lot of corruption is involved, illegal mining takes place. But the most important thing is the place where the coal reserves are there, that is also one place where the forest reserves are there, and the indigenous communities are living over there, the tribal people are living over there. So whenever we extract, whenever we bring any policy to extract the coal reserves, the displacement of the tribal people take place in that particular areas. That is also one of the issue which is there in India. So that's how basically you compare and contrast. Now when we talk about compare and contrast, how does the abundance of coal influence the energy policies in these countries? Though when we talk about the US, in US coal reserves were there. Now the coal reserves are not there any, coal reserves are in lesser quantity. Because of that, US want to shift more and more towards renewable energy. Coal is responsible for even the climate change, release of carbon dioxide, increase in carbon footprints. That's why now US is moving more towards renewable energy reserves. So that's one policy measures they have taken. China also is shifting towards the renewable energy, but still even today China is producing a significant amount of carbon footprints, and it is using carbon as in coal on a huge level. So its policy is such that we will be, there was a report which has suggested that how China is fighting with the global warming. China is fighting with the global warming by burning more coal, by generating more electricity for ACs, so that they'll be able to stay within the cool climate. So they want electricity for AC, which will keep them cool. But that electricity which they are generating through AC, that electricity they are generating by burning the coal. So they are like, we don't give damn about the global warming. We will fight global warming by keeping ourselves cool, by switching on our ACs. Even if global warming happens because of us carbon burning and all, so that's not our problem, that's world's problem. You don't need to write that as such, but then yes, this is there in China. Along with that, if we talk about India, India is moving towards renewable energy. We have created a record by generating more than 17 gigawatts of renewable energy last year in a single year itself. So we are focusing a lot on the renewable energy. Our overall share of renewable energy in the total energy consumption has gone up to 45%, all the way from somewhere around 10-12% which we had earlier. Now it has become 45%, and we are moving very fast towards our utilization of renewable energy and decreasing our consumption of coal reserves. So that's how we can tackle this answer. Next, analyze the mining industry's impact on the indigenous communities and the environment in South Asia, particularly in the regions rich in mineral resources. Now this is a typical question in which you need to know the communities which are there in the South Asiatic region. South Asia only they are asking, right? So analyze the mining industry's impact on the indigenous communities and the environment in South Asia, particularly in the regions which are rich in mineral resources. Now in South Asia we have all our South Asian countries: India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan. Along with that, we can also talk about Myanmar and all. So South Asian countries will take into account over here. So displacement of indigenous community, that is one of the issue, which is that in displacement of indigenous community you can talk about the Santhal and the Ho tribes which are there in the Jharkhand. Their displacement has taken place because of the extraction of coal in the Jharkhand. Along with that, loss of land rights for the tribals in Chhattisgarh, Gonds and Baigas. These are the two tribes who have lost their land rights because of the extraction of iron ore mining in Chhattisgarh. Along with that, environmental degradation in Pakistan, Balochistan region of Pakistan, where copper and gold mining in the Reko-Dik region leads to deforestation and water contamination over there. Health hazards, the mining of bauxite in Odisha as inhibited by Dongriya Kond leads to increased respiratory diseases for those people. So there is a Dongriya Kond tribe which is there, and they are increased respiratory diseases for them. Economic disparities, if you talk about, so Magar and Tharu communities in Dang and Rolpa district see little economic benefit from limestone and cement mining in Nepal, right? Along with that, cultural erosion. So Vedda people in Sri Lanka face cultural erosion. That means the number of people who are speaking that language, that kind of living that culture, has reducing significantly because of the mining project in the Uva province of Sri Lanka. And along with that, Fulbari coal project has led to protest and conflict with the local communities, including the Santhal tribe in Bangladesh, right? So these are the impacts which you can mention. Let's move forward. Evaluate India's efforts to increase its renewable energy capacity. What are the challenges and opportunities in this sector? India's effort, you can write about Paris Agreement. You can also talk about national determined contribution in the Paris Agreement, and the facts are also required over here in this question because they are asking India's efforts. As of May 2024, India's installed renewable energy capacity, including large hydro, stands around 193.57 gigawatt. There's one tweak which we have done. We have in the earlier policies, we have not used the large hydro as a part of renewable energy, but now we are using it, and that is also one of the reason why Our number has increased substantially. Accounting for 45.3% of the country's total installed capacity, India saw a record addition of 18 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity in the financial year 2024. So this is the achievement which you can mention. And progress in renewable energy, national action plan on climate change, you can mention. What are the challenges? So challenges are grid integration is one of the challenges. Technology restrictions are also another challenges. India cannot produce its own photovoltaic cells. India cannot produce its own semiconductors because it requires, for semiconductor, the technology it requires, it's not there with us. And along with that, if we talk about the photovoltaic cells, so for photovoltaic cells, what do we require is rare earth elements. We do not have access to rare earth elements significantly because India does not have rare earth elements, and in the world China has its dominance. So even today, for our photovoltaic cell, we import it from China. Along with that, financing, so limited access to affordable finance, particularly for SMEs, right? So there is a lot of disparity in the businesses. Are also, we can see recently also a lot of disparities are taking place. Land acquisition and infrastructure, so that is also another issue. Opportunities they have not asked, so will not write it. Way forward, I'll suggest that whenever you have to write way forward, always try to write the way forward as in the solutions in the conclusion itself. 16th question is, discuss the reasons behind the predominance of rice cultivation in the eastern India and wheat in the northern India. How do soil types and the climatic condition influence these cropping patterns? Now, why do you think that the rice cultivation is there in the eastern India and wheat cultivation is there in the western part? Multiple reasons can be cited. That in India, the Bay of Bengal branch brings monsoonal rainfall in the northern plain region. This rainfall is higher on the eastern part of India, eastern northern plain, while it reduces as you move towards the western part. So because the rainy months, because rainfall comes first in eastern India and goes last, while rainfall comes last in western India, goes first. So the monsoonal months for the western India, that means the western northern plain, it is for maybe 3 months, 3.5 months. So monsoonal months for the eastern part of India, it can stay as long as 4 to 5 months. So they have more rainy season. Because of that, they have more rainfall, more water. So rice requires water. That's why they consume rice. That's one thing. Traditionally, the people over there have their culture developed in such a way that they eat more of rice and fish. Eastern Indian people eat more rice and fish. And that's why also in their culture, rice eating is more dominant. That's why they cultivate more of a rice for the population which is present over there. If we talk about Western India, in Western India, the impact of Green Revolution has played very important role. The impact of Doab region has played very important role. And that's why these people consume more of a wheat. The impact of Western disturbance can also be seen over here. Western disturbance bring winter rainfall. In eastern part of India, the winter rainfall is very less. It is not significant. But the winter rainfall is there in the western part of India, and that's why they produce more of a wheat, isn't it? So that's the reason because of which Western India produces more wheat and the Eastern India produces more of a rice. So these points you can mention. Discuss the role of the Himalayas in influencing the Indian monsoon. How do mountain range impact the distribution and intensify the monsoonal rainfall? Role of Himalayas in influencing the Indian monsoon. What would you write in this? See, if you talk about the Himalayas, Himalayas play very important role because first of all, it protects us from Siberian winds, Siberian cold winds. Because Siberian cold winds cannot enter into India, the other circulation can take place over here. Secondly, the subtropical westerly jet stream STWJ gets divided into two branches because of the height of Himalaya. Along with that, a proper high pressure low pressure system which had to be developed for the movement of winds gets developed in northern plains and even in the Tibet region as well, which is present in Himalayas. That's why the monsoonal pattern gets influenced. So they are asking, discuss the role of Himalayas in influencing Indian monsoon. So that's one thing. Along with that, because of the height presented by the Himalayas, the climatic winds, the movement of the ITCZ, Intertropical Convergence Zone, also gets influenced. So these are the points which you can mention for the Himalayas for this particular answer. Alright, next. What are the primary volcanic landforms that contribute to the formation of volcanic islands? How do they impact local ecosystem? What are the primary volcanic landforms that contribute to the formation of volcanic islands? So here basically the question is not properly framed, I guess, because what are the primary volcanic landforms that contribute to the formation of volcanic islands? Volcanic island itself is a what you can say, it's a landform, you know. But anyways, shield volcanoes, cinder volcanoes, lava cones, caldera, lava. All right, we'll skip this question for a while because I think it could have been written properly. Analyze the economic and social impact of cyclone Amphan, which struck India and Bangladesh in 2020. How effective is disaster management and response efforts in minimizing the damage? Now see, cyclone Amphan is a large scale air mass that route. Cyclone Amphan was a very strong cyclonic system which has occurred in 2020 in India in the eastern part, and that has created a lot of catastrophe for our country. So economic impact, now we can write infrastructural damage, along with that agricultural losses, business interruptions, fisheries, livestock, that was there. However, one thing which we can mention over here is that before 2005, our major focus used to be on during disaster and after disaster measures. However, see, in 1999 when the cyclone has happened in Odisha, in that cyclone thousands of people have lost their lives. However, recently whenever cyclone comes, and even if that cyclone is of high intensity cyclone, the overall impact which it creates over the surface, it's pretty low. The number of people who lose their lives, it is not in thousands, rather Amphan was the one who has because of which recently people have died significantly, but that number was somewhere in the range of I think 100 or 200 or something. So number of people have died, the number of deaths which are taking place because of the occurrence of cyclones have reduced. However, even after that we can write that the impact of the cyclone was the loss of lives and the displacement of the people who have happened. One new point which you can mention over here is that when the cyclone Amphan has happened, at that point of time COVID-19 was also going on. So when people have got displaced from their original position, so lot of people who have got displaced, they had COVID, and because of that it also played important crucial role in spreading of the disease. Along with that, a lot of people have become more and more vulnerable. All medical facilities which were available in the region, they also got destroyed because of the availability of the cyclone. The routes, the connectivity, the transportation system also got affected because of it. So there was already one catastrophe which was going on in the form of COVID-19, and because of the occurrence of cyclone Amphan, you can see that the eastern part, wherever the cyclone has occurred, the people over there had to face another catastrophe along with the COVID, and that has created more impact. So that is some these are some points which you can write in the answer. Discuss the recent Joshimath crisis in India, focusing on the causes and the immediate impact on the local population. Evaluate the role of human activities in increasing the crisis and propose the sustainable solution to mitigate such occurrences in the future. Now, Joshimath basically is a pilgrimage place, is a place where the devotees go quite frequently, and that's why it's not just for the people who live over there, but also for the various pilgrims, the devotees who visit this place quite frequently. Now, you must be knowing that recently lot of things we have seen in Joshimath, that the landslides have happened. Along with that, the land got subsided downwards because of the development of a lot of cracks over the surface. So it is said that it is because of the increased infrastructural activities in the Joshimath region, increased human interventions in the form of various concretization of the region. So geological vulnerability first of all of the region, because it is present in the Himalayas, which comes in the earthquake prone zone. So that geological vulnerability was there, but along with that, the other vulnerability was intense constructional activities in the region, which has also increased the isostatic balance. It has destabilized the isostatic balance of the region. You need to write such geographical words as well in your answer if you can write, because it creates good impression. If you, rather than writing isostatic disequilibrium, if you just end up writing this, that because of the increase in the weight of the infrastructure, the landmass got subsided below. So that's correct, there is no problem in that, but isostatic disequilibrium suggests that, okay, you know that it is putting more pressure on the lithospheric plate, because of which the land is getting subsided, right? So along with that, various projects which were going on over there, hydroelectric projects and all, they also got affected. A lot of people have to shift their houses, so displacement have also taken place, which has also led to some of the cultural conflicts, right? So displacement of communities, loss of livelihood, psychological stress, environmental degradation, these are some of the points which you can mention in this particular answer. So this is it about this particular test. Let's meet next time with the new paper. Thank you.